Hi guys, welcome to Off-Road Ramble. A little bit of a difference. We're just going to dig into some of the accessories. We're going to start with wheels. It's a fairly easy topic. We can get into the weeds a little bit about some of the technical stuff, but we're just going to give you some idea of the type of wheels that at least we have here. It's probably the easiest thing that people will change on their vehicle. Some of the things perhaps to consider will be whether you want it to contrast the color of your Grenadier, if it's a light or a dark color. Do you want to go for the utility look in terms of steel wheels? And we're going to show you some examples of what they look like, what size. Most people go for 17, so you can have more tire area, but there is an 18 available. Now, we don't have any aftermarket steel wheels. I'm sure they're available. I couldn't find that many. But we're going to talk about some of the alloys and just the ones that we have here from Agile Offroad, Braid, and a couple of others. So there's some really, really cool wheels that we can show you. Apologies for the noise, but we are in a workshop. The other thing to consider about wheels is your offset, and that really just changes the stance. There's a little bit more involved with the offset and how that's calculated, but basically it'll really change how much of the wheel sticks out. Now, all of these wheels that we're going to mention to you today, or these versions of these wheels, will all fit on a Grenadier. There's not going to be, assuming you haven't changed the brakes, the brake clearance is going to be fine, the suspension is going to be fine, some of your shock absorbers, your spring, these will all clear those wheels, or the clearance on the wheel. So that really makes a big difference, knowing that you haven't got to modify or put spacers on, and that's a whole nother subject. But yeah, these wheels are pretty good, and these are all alloys that we're going to show you as well, with the exception of the factory steels that we'll have a look at in a bit. So guys, we're going to start with the Agile wheel. So these Agile wheels, these are a satin black. The name of them, it looks a bit more like they're a matte black, but it is a satin black. The name of this is the Overlander XT. It's a 17x8 with a 32 offset. And 32/30 is really good for your Grenadier to keep the wheels just about where the fender is. That's a good reference. Notice with this one as well, it comes with the two valve apertures here for airing down a little bit quicker. These run from about $399, depends on the type of valves and the color that you have on them. But yeah, they're a pretty nice wheel, and they do complement the Grenadier pretty well. There are some other colors. There's a matte gray with a black lip, which looks kind of nice. And then there's a matte bronze with a black lip. And we'll put some of those images of those off the website. This is the only one we've got in stock right now. Well, 4 of them, obviously. But yeah, they're a pretty nice wheel. Okay guys, this is the Braid Winrace S. There are so many wheels that Braid make. I looked at 90 something individual wheels on their website, of which this is one. So this particular one has an offset of 25. This one is a 17x11, this particular one. Well, they do a variant. They do a 16.4 to a 17.11, sorry, on this one. So yeah, quite a big variance there. Lots of different sizes for different applications. These are a little bit more money. These are $455. Kind of that old school rally car look, I guess, with the spokes and the anthracite color. There's quite a few different colors with these, but I think this particular one is just anthracite, but for the other models, yeah, there are quite a few different other ones. Okay guys, you can see this is the same Braid wheel on the truck. It is a little dirty, the valve caps missing there, but this 25 gives you a little bit of an offset. So if we look at the back of the Grenadier, and you can see it's sitting ever so slightly proud of the fender. Not much, but just a tiny bit. Somebody's been drawing on this one. But you can see it sticks out ever so slightly. If we went for a 32 offset, it would just be slightly in. Remember, that measurement's in millimeters from the plate of the, where the wheel mounts basically onto the hub. This particular vehicle, very briefly, this is the came in third place. This is the Rebel rally vehicle. We've had them back and we're kind of cleaning them and getting the equipment out and stuff. But yeah, this has worked pretty hard over that 10-day event, which is why it's a little bit dirty. So guys, this is our Quartermaster. That again was in the Rebel Rally, but just to give you another idea of the wheels on this one, this is the Beadlock version. We're going to dig into Beadlocks shortly. I'm going to get Todd to come and help us with that because it's pretty interesting how that works. But yeah, this is the Beadlock version of that same Braid wheel that we can see with the red beadlock on the outside. These are they are a little dirty, but these are the gloss black version. So again, so many different options to complement or contrast your vehicle depending on the look you're going for, and again depending on the color. Okay guys, some other wheels that we do here, a black Rhino, slightly cheaper price point. These range anywhere, depending on the model. There's a few different colors as well, lots of different size applications, and also PCDs as well for different vehicles. Obviously we're going with the 6 by 130, but yeah, 300 to 350. They look pretty cool. This one at the bottom here has sort of very military overtones. Looks to me like it should you know, belong on a Humvee or something, but or an up-armored vehicle. But yeah, they do look pretty cool. But again, very subjective, and yeah, it depends on the look you're going for. Okay guys, you can see we've got this Grenadier and Magic Mushroom with the red frame option, and then we've got the black Rhino wheel here. Looks pretty cool. This is the same as the grey one we showed you, just all in black, and this center section is actually a plastic cover, but again it kind of looks like it should be on some sort of up-armored military vehicle, which kind of suits the aesthetic of the Grenadier. But again, it's what you want. Yeah, it's how that looks. A little bit of offset there. You can see they stick out ever so slightly. But yeah, nice looking wheel, complements the truck very, very nicely. Quite a nice stance as well. Okay guys, another really cool wheel. These are about $350, $340 a wheel, Nomad. This particular one is called the 501 Convoy. This is available in grey or black. Pretty cool looking wheel. They have an offset of 50 again, so it's going to stick out a little bit, but yeah, it's going to give the vehicle a really good stance. They almost look like steels, but in fact they're not. They are alloy. But again, I'm not sure how these particular ones are made, but if it's that flow forming, it does make it very, very strong. They're good for impacts and you know, any sort of loadings you're going to get while you're off-road, or shock loadings. So yeah, pretty nice wheel. There is another design as well. We'll put that on the up in on some pictures somewhere you can see, and that's called the Sahara. That's like a multi-spoke. Again, it looks a bit like the Braid, but it's almost looks like a rally car wheel. But again, some more options for you. Okay guys, this is the Sealer Green with the Nomad wheel on again. So again, a different look as well, slightly less in the way of offset on this one. So you can see the doesn't quite have the stance that the some of the others we looked at, and the tire definitely fits inside the fender well. You haven't got that slight sort of proud stance that some of the others have. So again, depends on what you're looking at. Okay guys, we've got wheels from Owl. There's the 60 and the Talon, as you can see there on the label. There is another version called a Mojo, which we haven't got here, but we'll put a picture of that up. These are 17 by 8. They have that sort of magic 30mm offset. So again, they're going to be just inside the wheel arch. Pretty nice looking wheels, and a lot of these wheels actually, I haven't even realised, and I've said it a couple of times, but they do look like steels, you know, so you've got a lot of mass of the wheel there with very few holes. So again, depending on the look you're going to go for. But yeah, pretty nice wheel. These go for about $400 each. These particular ones also come with the double valves, so you can have 2 valves, air down a little bit quicker. The price fluctuates a bit, again, depending on the type of valves that you put on here, I believe. But yeah, pretty nice wheel. Yeah, and Owl again, they're from they also do stuff with the Sprinter vans, but yeah, they've got pretty heavily involved in the Grenadier stuff, and they do some nice accessories as well, independent of tyres. We use them a fair bit, so yeah, they're pretty good. Okay guys, you can see this is the white Talon, so this is the on a dark blue body, if that's the look you're going for when you want a lot of contrast. I think it looks pretty good actually, but again, if you wanted it to blend in with the darker bodywork, you could have the black one or the grey one, so it really depends on what you want. And again, it looks kind of like a steel, and we've got a lot of wheel mass here, a lot of material. But again, it gives you that very distinct look. Okay guys, some other colours. We're in the ever popular Magic Mushroom here. We can see these are method wheels. They come in an anthracite colour, this colour. There's a bronze and a white and a silver. They range anywhere, the designs are very similar. We'll have a look at some others outside, but anywhere between $250 and $350. This one's it's not very deep at all. It sits very much inside the wheel arch. I suspect the offset on this one is about that sort of 30 mark. But yeah, nice looking wheel, complements the Grenadier very well. So guys, you can see this is a pretty cool build here with this Grenadier. These have got the 17s on. These are basically the same wheel we've just shown you, but in this sort of, it's like a light anthracite or gunmetal. Looks pretty nice. Again with the BFGs on it. But again, it complements, this is in white, so I think it complements it quite well. But again, it just depends on the look you're going for. Pretty nice suspension on this one. It's got the King shocks and a bunch of accessories. But yeah, I think it finishes the vehicle off quite nicely. Okay guys, just to give you some differences, because it's always good to have a little comparison. We've got 2 stock vehicles here. This one has 18-inch steel wheels with a BF Goodrich KO2. This is what happens when it rains in Utah. It's wonderful. It just dumps this all over your vehicle. But also we have exactly the same tyre. We've just got the letters exposed on this one on the outside, but this is a 17 with the factory steel wheel. So you can see, and actually we had trouble sort of identifying this from a little bit of a distance. If you see the 2 together like they are here, you can actually kind of see. But again, it just depends on how much tyre area you think you need or you think that looks better. So again, it's aesthetics, and what you dictate is going to be more useful to you. Hi guys, so last wheel we're going to look at now is the Torque Enduro. Now there's only kind of one version of this, but you can use it in 2 different ways. So let's just talk about the colours first. There's a gloss machined setup here with a white. There's also the satin black, but if you notice they're slightly different. So these are beadlock capable, and we're going to go into a bit more detail and tell you what beadlocks actually are, but it's just very briefly, it's a means of holding the tyre onto the bead in a more secure way, and we're going to actually take a tyre off the rim and show you this. But these 2 here, the gloss machine and this satin black one, you can see that the beadlock, and this is a separate piece that sits on the outside, yeah? So there is a street mode, and then there's an adventure mode. So these 2 are in adventure mode here, like this, and then you can see this is street mode. So the basic idea is that the bead on here is pretty conventional. It's behind where my fingers are here, or where that writing is. So yeah guys, you can see this ring here is basically what it looks like on the outside. That's the underneath, that's the top side. So you can see this is one of our other Rebel rally vehicles. So this is again the same wheel. This is one of the Torque wheels in the satin black, but this is in the non-adventure mode, if you like. So we can see this is set up. Now the other thing to remember as well is that you'd have to dig into this, but most states, I think it might even be all states, pretty much say that beadlocks are not DOT approved. So it's down to you whether you use that on the street, but it's not recommended. But what we'll do now is head over to the tire machine, and I'm going to get Todd from the workshop to come and show us how this works, so it'll be a little bit more obvious. Okay then, Todd, so this is the wheel off that vehicle we've just looked at, right? So this running the Rebel, and you're going to show us. So this is in inverted commas,
they call it street mode. So back to looking at this wheel, they call this a dual purpose wheel. And being this vehicle competed in the stock class, and so being stock class, we had to run the wheel in street form. But now obviously the Rebel's over with. Now we're getting the cars all reset and redone so that they can go out and train all year long on it. And we actually train in beadlock mode, so we're going to put it back in, as in this, they like their term is adventure mode. But we're going to kind of show real quick on how I do that conversion to quickly change it over from being in street mode, and then I'm going to roll the bead over so that we can get ready to put our beadlock ring on and secure it and then fasten the bead. And that being said, people kind of wonder, well, what's a beadlock for and why would I want that? Well, the tire machine is going to kind of represent that, because you think when you're off-roading a tire, there's only so low pressure I can go on the tire. Before you ever heard that term where people have debeaded a tire before, because if you get really low pressure, I like to use the example of like dunes. When you're in the dunes, you want to sand stuff, you want to get really low pressure. Well, if I drop that tire down to 10 or 12 psi, if I put too much force on the tire when I'm turning, I'll literally put enough pressure on that sidewall, it'll just break that bead and pop her off. So the reason you want to go to a beadlock is that'll allow me to deflate the tire a lot more, so I can crawl over rocks easier, I can grip rocks easier, and then even say a scenario back to what I was referring to, like being in the sand dunes, when you run that lower pressure, you don't run that risk of having your tire debead, because if you lose tire pressure 100% like that, it's going to pop and you're going to lose all your air real quick.
And in sand you do have to turn, obviously. But the other thing to point out to people, the reason that, if you may or may know this, but everybody's different, right? The reason that we deflate the tires is it increases the tire contact patch that way, and I guess in sand it gives you flotation, so you go over the top rather than sinking in. So there are huge benefits to deflating the tires, which on the street is largely irrelevant, but for off-road stuff on different surfaces,
off-road
it's
and rock
massively,
crawling and just even some of your general stuff. When you can get to those lower pressures, it definitely gives you a lot better.
So let me ask you this: you're not going to do this with a couple of old spoons?
No, not a lot. Did you bring your spoons with you?
Like I used to do on my mountain bike.
Well, in fact, it makes you feel better. We do have our full tire spoons. We've had to do tire changes on the trail, so
you got to do what you got to do.
Because that's one of the things is I've had in events that I've raced before where we've had beadlocks and we've literally had a sidewall damage, or I've had to change the tire in the middle of nowhere. So beadlocks are a lot easier to deal with if I have to change a tire on the side than just debeading both sides and trying to peel it off. So, well, anyways, we're going to get real quick here, but we just want to get in here and we're going to kind of come down here and we're just going to show you a little thing here. We're just going to get ready to break this off, and then we're just going to go in here. I just spin around. I'm going to put a little bit of lube in here.
Oh, of course, because you're doing it that way, So this is the bit where it cheats, right?
Yep.
Pretty cool. Awesome.
And then once we have that, we'll come over here, and then this is where the ring now. So now if you see, I've moved that bead from the other side where it's just for a tubeless tire sitting underneath on that seat. Now I moved it over here, and now I'm going to pinch it between those 2 points. So then that will sit over the ring like that, and then we'll take our bolts, and we got our big old box of bolts. And now they're not just ornamental, they actually provide a function. Now we're actually going to install all our bolts all the way around. And then properly tighten and torque those to what they need to be. And then
and it's pretty clever that you get one wheel that you can use in 2 modes, right? That's
and that's the unique thing about it. If you were a person that, I don't really go down to the dunes all the time, I don't off-road all the time, particularly aggressively, then you can put it in street mode and drive the wheel all year round. But then, say on the summertime, I go down and do a ton of off-roading and camping and those kinds of things, and I need to be able to get down to those lower deflation levels, well then now you have a wheel where you could do that.
And sand really is probably, maybe mud, I guess snow sometimes, but the sand is the main one where you want to air it
sand
right down
and rock climbing, some rock climbing stuff you'll do.
So the other thing people might be asking is, if I put it back into the street mode, shall we call it, you could still use this, because then that's just aesthetic rather than structural, right? You could put this on.
No, you wouldn't put this back on.
But you could.
I wouldn't.
No, but from
because it wouldn't fit here. I'll show you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the ring is only intended to be used when it's in its full beadlock form. If it's not in beadlock form, then that's hence why if you look at the Winston Street mode, it does come with the other bolts. So instead of using your beadlock bolts, it comes with a short little bolt. So that way your bolt holes and all that part of that stay free and don't get debris and all that kind of stuff in there.
Okay, well, thanks for putting us right on that. I've learned a little bit by doing that. Thank you, Todd, for showing us that.
Coming here.
That's good. And I hope that made some sense, guys, with the wheels, looking at some different wheels for your, well, any vehicle really, but for your Grenadier. And I hope the beadlock made a bit of sense, whether you do or don't want that, as to how much value you put on that system. It's a pretty cool idea. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you've got any comments you want to make, please do. Or if you've got ask us any questions, we'll gladly answer them. All right, see you next time.